join me in welcoming the 2026 North Family Endowed Lecturer in Parks and Recreation Management, my friend, Drew Hughes.
Thank you, guys. After that introduction, I guess I'm done. I'll see you guys later. He's got that all wrapped up for me. As Garrett mentioned, my name is Drew Hughes. I want to first of all thank Mike and his wife for setting this up. As I mentioned to you earlier before, this foundation was not here when I was here, and it's thrilling to see that we've got such high enthusiasm from private donors. And then I also want to thank I also want to congratulate the scholars. Where are you guys at? Who are our scholarship winners? Guys, you guys have a great path ahead of you. Keep up the hard work. I know that it's going to be kind of a hard road, but it'll be worth it in the long run, I promise, all right? So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for having me. This is an honor and a privilege to be back out here at Southwestern. It's surreal to be back out here. It's great seeing friends and having my family back out here. My journey began, I guess, when I was around 7 or 8, when my parents took my brother Adam and I on a trip to Kansas. Now, this would have been in the late 1900s, for those of you who can think about that. So that means that there were, no smartphones, no tablets, no internets to keep us kiddos entertained on the way out there. And to be honest, I don't really remember what happened on that trip nearly as much as I remember what my parents did to keep Adam and I entertained. They bought us a coloring book along the way. I think mine was like a State of Kansas coloring book, and the one that they bought Adam was actually this coloring book right here. Fantastic little literature. And I'm going to use this coloring book today to kind of help illustrate my journey to becoming a park ranger. Let's see here. By the way, my journey may get a little boring, may be a little boring without a little bit of audience participation. So if you guys have any questions along the way, please feel free to jump in and ask. With that being said, again, thank you for having me, and let's see where the journey goes. So my high school, or my middle, early years would have been starting out with the coloring book through the middle school area, through middle school age. My parents raised Adam and I in Enid and Drummond, Oklahoma, and they took us on hikes, they took us on camping trips occasionally, and they took us on vacations when they could, and usually we would hit up a national park site here and there along the way. My dad would always encourage us to go see those national park sites, and they would also, where'd my mouse go? There we go. And he would always encourage me to go find a park ranger and chat with them because he knew that I wanted to be a park ranger, and as you can probably imagine, as a little kid who was idolizing these park rangers, who was looking up to them, wanting to be one, was occasionally intimidated by those conversations. But with a little bit of encouragement from my dad and the occasional hand-holding at those early years, I was able to strike up conversations with the park rangers. And I'll have to say that those memories that I had talking to those rangers, I still keep those in mind today whenever I get little kids coming up and talking to me. It's intimidating, but it's definitely the foundation of my memories. In the middle school and high school, my dream of being a ranger was definitely reinforced by the love and enjoyment of scouting. Troop 26, where I was a scout, was comprised of students from Drummond, Lahoma, Enid, and it fluctuated in size from about 5 to 12 scouts at a time. It was a good time for me because it boosted my confidence in, outdoor skills like camping, backpacking, shooting, canoeing, all of these skills which I thought at the time would be exactly what I needed to become a park ranger in my career. And then, of course, this unknown concept of leadership was also instilled upon me early on in Boy Scouts. When I was always that ranger, or I'm sorry, I was always that scout that would pack extra stuff, had extra camping gear, had extra first aid stuff, had all of that stuff. I would help the scout masters kind of plan out the trip a little bit. And unbeknownst to me, that sort of stuff was what kind of helped me develop this idea of leadership. And when we had the vote to get different types of positions in the scout troop, I think Adam was quartermaster, was voted to be quartermaster in the troop, and then unbeknownst to me, they all decided that I should be the senior patrol leader for the troop. I didn't know what that meant at the time.
Nobody else wanted that responsibility.
That's right. It was kind of thrust upon me. But the nice thing about it was I had already been doing that sort of stuff for the troop anyway. So that sense of leadership helped me to reach my end goal of becoming an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America. After that, that was about the end of high school, and that helped me to keep an eye on long-term goals, because you don't just become Eagle, at the next day. You have to work towards that goal, and that long-term goal helped keep my eyes on the prize of becoming a park ranger. During this time, I worked hard in school and managed to get college scholarships, including a tuba scholarship to not Southwestern. Now, I know what you're thinking. I thought we were here to talk about the success of a Southwestern graduate, and that is true, we are. But like every good hero's journey, every hero has to deal with a few setbacks every now and then. And Northwestern, I love that school, don't get me wrong. It was a great time. I enjoyed being a ranger. I was fixated on being a ranger, so I thought, why not be a ranger at a college? And little did I realize that that wasn't the journey I was supposed to be taking. So my time at Northwestern was, it was good, but it wasn't what I hoped it would be. They had a program called Conservation Law Enforcement, which is basically a hybrid of criminal justice and biology. I think you remember that.
I remember that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And that course itself was kind of geared more towards game wardens, highway patrol, that sort of stuff. And it got to a point where I realized that I was enjoying my electives far more than I was my actual degree curriculum. And I was starting to get a little, stuck, feeling like I was stuck out there. And as luck would have it, it was now the middle of my sophomore year. Enter in the picture my old pal and brother, Adam, who shoots me a text and tells me that he wants me to come visit him at Southwestern, and that there's a program out there that he thinks would be right up my alley.
And that was just after I had met with Mr. Chad Kinder.
Yep.
And I had to do an interview for Crowder Lake, being an orientation leader.
Feeling stuck at Northwestern, and admittedly realizing that I missed my brother as well, I eventually drove down to Weatherford to see what he was talking about. And I'll never forget this. This is this is a very weird, kismet type of situation. But I get down to Rogers and Jefferson Dorm's parking lot, and it's nighttime at this point when I finally get down there. And I look down on the ground, and there's this piece of paper. And me, being the steward of this great earth that I am, I decided to pick up the litter. And I get into the elevator to go up to his dorm level, his floor. And I'm looking at this paper, and it is a, what is that? What do you call it? The degree plan for park law enforcement in the Parks and Recreation Management program. Yeah. And I get up there, have my pleasantries with Adam, and I say, what is this? What is this degree plan? He said, that's actually why I want you to come out here. I wanted you to meet up with Dr. Kinder, or as I learned to call him, Chad, at that point. Adam, as he mentioned, was an orientation leader and had just met with him and realized that degree program would probably be better suited for me than what I had at Northwestern. So the next day, I basically went up there and chatted with Dr. Kinder, and ended up, I think it was at that point, when we were there, you had just finished up a meeting with Wendy Lauritsen.
Oh, yeah.
And as luck would have it, Chad sat me down and said, what is it that you want to do with your degree? And I said, well, I want to become a park ranger for the National Park Service. And as enthusiastically and as only Chad can, he said, that's great. You should talk to this person that was just in here. This is Wendy Lauritsen. She's the superintendent of Ouachita Battlefield National Historic Site. I think you guys would be great. And he quickly led me out the door. Those of you that know Chad know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't do it justice, but that is definitely how it went down. And I chatted with Wendy, and it was, she didn't have anything for me to do then, but she said in a couple months there's going to be some volunteer opportunities. Check back in, and we'll see what we can get set up for you. So yeah, I transferred to Southwestern. It didn't take much for me to be convinced that Southwestern was where I needed to be at that time. I still have that hat somewhere. I do, yeah.
Do you remember the first class you took?
I do. I went back to Northwestern, finished my sophomore year that summer, and I took Intro to Ropes course taught by Chad, and it was with Steve Kemp and C.D. Perkins, two phenomenal state park rangers that I got to know real well out there. And then the other class that I took out there was trail riding with Ryan Haggard. He put me on a horse by the name of Squirrel, and that darn horse nearly ran me right off a cliff that day. So I'll never forget that either. That's another story, though. We'll chat about that again soon. I worked out at Crowder Lake, as Garrett mentioned, both as a park attendant and then also as a ropes course facilitator. My cohorts right here, we did do work, I promise, but we also, that's right, we did play around a little bit too. I think we're enjoying a good set of s'mores over there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was also a student instructor for Chad and Ryan, and eventually helped out with Paul at the ropes course a little bit. And as mentioned, I became the president of the Parks and Rec Club, and we did Fright Night out here at Crowder Lake. And it was basically a fear factor competition where we utilized the tower out here for various skills. We also had a food challenge that, if I remember correctly, I went down to the meat market just south of Weatherford and got a bunch of pig eyeballs. And I'll be darned if those students weren't just thrilled to death to eat a bunch of pig eyeballs so that they could win the Fear Factor competition. And me being the solid, upstanding president that I was, I told them that I wouldn't make them do anything unless I did it myself. And I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but I definitely partook in eating a pig eyeball for the sake of the team, so to speak. It was weird. It was not good. It was safe. It was 100% safe, I promise, but it was very, very disgusting. The best class that I took out at Southwestern, though, had to have been the tracking class, put on by Mike Vaught, C.D. Perkins, David Scott Donlin. David Scott Donlin, rest in peace as well. It was out at Bowling Springs, and it got me. It also there was actually a U.S. park ranger out there that out of Buffalo National River that helped teach the class as well, and I got to tie in with him and keep my eye on the prize for working as a park ranger eventually. Oh, spoilers. Sorry, I didn't mean to spoil that for you guys. It was a phenomenal class, though. All of the classes that I had out here were phenomenal, but this one we were camped out there at Boiling Springs at their bunk sites for three or 4 days, and we just learned and learned and learned. That being said, the biggest draw to Southwestern was the fact that it had a practical degree program, not just theoretical-based classes. And that practical degree program is what really, really made me fall in love with Southwestern, Crowder Lake, the Parks and Recreation staff. And what I didn't get at Northwestern that I got here at Southwestern was that as a student, when I walked into the education building, talked to the Parks and Rec staff, talked to the education department, the pro and grad staff, I knew that Chad, Ryan, Randy, Paul, Dr. Rose, and everybody in that field was going to make time for me and every other student that came in there with questions, concerns, a plan. I didn't get that at Northwestern, and that's why you guys are family to me. That's why I love Southwestern to this day. I'm sure there's other faculty members that I missed, but if there are, I'm sorry. But it was a phenomenal time, and I just got my brother to thank for it, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Now, moving on. Remember that Kismet meeting that I had with Superintendent Wendy Lauritsen, my first time out here at Southwestern. She and the Chief of Interpretation at Ouachita came back to speak at several of our classes, and in 2007, they said that they've got some special events coming up. One of which was the dedication of the visitor center that they had just newly established out there. The event was, I definitely chatted with them and signed up for the event as quickly as possible. The event was set for April 20th, 2007, and when April 19th rolled around, I had a really hard time falling asleep that night, and I remember finally getting to sleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night out there, and had to go use the restroom. And when I peed, my urine was like the color of iced tea. I know it's gross, but I'm getting there, I promise. I go back and I talk to Adam, and I say, dude, there is something. And about that time, I pass out on the floor. And mind you,
I have to drag this.
yeah. He drives me to the hospital that night, and at 2 a.m., they tell me that I have a kidney stone in me. And I said, forget about it. I don't care. I've got a place to be at 6 in the morning, and Adam takes me back to the dorm.
We get there, we're in the middle of the night, we're in the hospital.
Yep, and he drives me back, and I say, forget about it. They can't do anything about it anyway that night.
Until 8 o'clock.
Yeah. So I get a couple hours of sleep, and that next morning, drive all the way out to Cheyenne, and have a little bit of discomfort in my flank, but I still power through it. And
Yeah, you really ruined my beauty spot.
yeah, I know I did. Living in the dorms, it was a weird time, but I got out there, and I showed Ouachita Battlefield that I was still dedicated, that I still was a hard worker. Chad, you were out there, yeah. I was pretty tired, but I still managed to do what they needed me to do. I held the flags during the ceremony because it was windy out there, and as boring of a job as that was, I knew how important it was. They also had me helping out with the sales that day. A lot of medial tasks, but that was where I started in the National Park Service, was just volunteering and doing those small jobs. It worked out. I went on to volunteer a couple more times in 2007, and I got a phone call from Chief of Interpretation out there, Dave Schaefer, who offered me a job as a park guide. Now, this was a student temporary job, and I was finishing up my degree, and I was working out here at Crowder, and I was an AD firefighter for the BIA, and I didn't know how I was going to juggle all of that stuff. And I had to tell him, I had to say, I'm sorry, but I don't know that I can do this right now. And he said, don't decide right now, take your time. And as soon as he hung up, I immediately called Chad and told him exactly what had transpired. And he said, Drew, listen, I will work with you on everything that you got to do here at Southwestern. You need to understand that this is your brass ring. This is your way in. Call him back right now and tell him that you're going to accept the position. And I did. I knew that Chad would help me out. I knew that Ryan would help me out. I knew that Paul would help me out however I needed to. And I went ahead and in August of 2007, I began my National Park Service career as a park guide with the National Park Service. I told the story of the attack that took place on November 27, 1868, between 7th U.S. Cavalry, led by George Armstrong Custer, and a band of peaceful Cheyenne Indians who were camped along the Ouachita River near modern-day Cheyenne, Oklahoma. I told that story a few times. So at that park, the opportunity I really enjoyed was conducting staff rides for military groups. For those of you that don't know, we would get, I think, soldiers from Fort Leavenworth. They would come out there, and they would, ahead of time, they were told about the attack that took place out there, and then they would enlist us to come out there and give them sort of the story so that they can understand it a little bit better. And then the tactics of that story, they would critique, and they would kind of look at the terrain and see if those types of tactics were the right thing that they should have done. Whether the event itself was right or wrong didn't really matter. It was just a tactical look at the engagement itself. It was a lot of fun to get to talk with them and have a different kind of perspective of it. Some of the other things that I did out there were living history. On November 27, 2008, I had the distinct honor of portraying a 7th Cavalry soldier. My chief of interpretation explained that he felt that I could portray a 7th Cavalry soldier accurately and with tact. He also mentioned that I was the only one on staff that could fit into the uniform. So I was really, really nervous to be standing there as a 7th Cavalry soldier while a bunch of Cheyenne came in to visit and talk about the anniversary of an attack that took place on their people. But one of the chiefs out there that came out there and came up to me, pretty big guy, right? And he looked at me and he said, I'm really, really glad that we're talking about both sides of this story, not just our side of it. And I said, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it was really cool to get that kind of recognition during that event. The other thing that I did for the National Park Service was I got trained out in Zion National Park to do publications. So rack cards, brochures. I was in charge of the website at Ouachita Battlefield. This was a planned wayside exhibit that it never actually got to go out there at Ouachita Battlefield, but it was something that I'm still really proud of because it was actually graded by other interpretive rangers throughout the Park Service and was certified as an interpretive model for wayside exhibits for future parks. I took a picture of the landscape out there at Ouachita and superimposed an old article drawing from Harper's Ferry Weekly from 1868 and threw that on there and then came up with the text for that event. I'm kind of disappointed that they never used it, but whatever. I'm not bitter about it at all, I promise. It was really, really cool, though. It was really, really awesome to get to see that something that I created was actually deemed worthy for other interpreters in the National Park Service. I did lots of talks, lots of tours. I was really, really pleased to get to talk with students out there, kind of teach them Oklahoma history. My mom was an Oklahoma history teacher before she retired, and it was really, really cool to get to kind of see that perspective from her, and then be able to do that for a living out there in Oklahoma as well. My family came out to visit me on several occasions. In 2009, I had the distinct pleasure of taking my dad and his best friend out on a tour of Ouachita Battlefield. It was weird to be the tour guide for my dad and his best friend, knowing that he was the one that kind of helped me get to where I was out there. But it was really, really, I don't know how to describe it, just one of those moments that didn't seem real. And I was really, really pleased to get to have that opportunity with my dad. I loved my time at Ouachita, and now after completing my master's at Southwestern, I was pretty pleased with my accomplishments, but there was still part of me that dreamed of more. I loved being a park guide, but it wasn't quite fulfilling my dream. So in light of that, I spoke to my supervisors about what I wanted to do next, and they worked with me to get my sabbatical, about 4 months off of work. I still had the job, but they allowed me to take 4 months off to attend Southwestern Community College out in Sylva, North Carolina. And that is the Seasonal Law Enforcement Academy. It wasn't real hard to convince them to let me go because that was 4 months that they didn't have to pay my salary. And when I got back, I'm pretty sure that they had a brand new Kubota tractor and a brand new golf cart. Can't say that that was because of me, but I have my suspicions.
They must have been paying you a lot to buy it.
Seems like it, right? Yeah. Seems like it.
Small tractor, small.
It was a small tractor, yes, absolutely. Seasonal Academy was fantastic training. It was structured like basic training, which at the time I had been exposed to with a lot of the curriculum, a lot of the classes that I had here at Southwestern. Because of that, it definitely gave me a leg up on a lot of those courses out there.
How long were you there? 4 months?
About 4 months, yeah. In December of 2010, so I think that would have been, right around 4 months. I graduated from Southwestern Community College, their seasonal law enforcement program. Now that made me eligible to be hired in a law enforcement position. I didn't automatically get to be hired. I would still have to apply to a law enforcement position that was available. That eligibility would only last 3 years, so I had to kind of start working towards my next steps. I wouldn't say that I was desperate, but I was definitely eager to get hired. But I went back to Ouachita and still worked hard every day, continued giving tours, making publications, and even learned to conquer my fear of snakes, which would probably come in handy later on down the road. In 2012, nearly 2 years after getting that eligibility, I was informed by Superintendent Frost that I would probably be receiving a phone call from a coworker of hers up in Nebraska. They had a law enforcement position available up there, and they needed to hire somebody into that position. So when that phone call happened, I talked with Superintendent Mark Engler at Homestead National Monument of America and interviewed for the position. And as luck would have it, he liked me, and I was able to get that next step going. I finally got a badge, I finally got a gun, but I'm still not a full-fledged U.S. park ranger. That part told the history of the Homestead Act of 1862, which opened up land west of the Mississippi for settlement. And since I don't have all day, you can look it up on nps.gov/home to learn more. It's a great park, but there's plenty more to this story. But in all actuality, Home was a neat little park, 211 acres, had lots of activities. We had lots of special events, lots of interpretive programs, but it wasn't crawling with law enforcement. Go figure. A little small town, Nebraska. Didn't have a lot going on out there for me. There were a lot of extra duties that did fall on my plate, though. One of which was I got to do more wildland fire. Yeah. Actually, I need to probably go back and explain why it kind of matters that I still needed to go through a law enforcement program. So the National Park Service has two types of law enforcement rangers. A Type 2 commissioned law enforcement ranger and a Type 1. Now, it's kind of confusing, but a Type 2 commissioned ranger is basically a law enforcement ranger who has not gone to the federal law enforcement training program. They can do a lot of the same things that other park ranger, full-fledged park rangers can't, but there are still things that they can't do. And one of which, strangely enough, is manage a law enforcement program. Now, at Homestead National Monument of America, I was the only law enforcement ranger there. I was the one in charge of that law enforcement program. Not going to say that we were going against policy, but it was a weird kind of gray area for me. I didn't really like that. So I did what I did out there, and eventually I got sent to Southwestern Oklahoma State. Eventually I got sent to FLETC. I went through the Land Management Police Training Program out there, and in February of 2015, I successfully graduated from that program. This is me with a good ranger friend of mine. Unfortunately, Justin is no longer with us. I wanted to include him in there because he was a real good friend of mine. He passed away due to cancer a couple years back. This is us. This was my class. FLETC is down in Glencoe, Georgia, and depending on the time of year that you're there, it's very, very hot, very, very muggy, but I just so happened to be there from October through February, which was beautiful. Not only that, but there were the most federal holidays in that time span than any other time that you were out there. So don't get me wrong, I got educated very, very well. But man, when you're in an academy like that, it's nice to have those breaks occasionally. It was a very good program. I was very pleased with it. But I'm still not a full-fledged Ranger yet because I still have one more step to go. After you get done with FLETC, you go through the the Field Training and Evaluation Program. And to tell you a little bit about that, this was one of my field trainers. I'm gonna see if the internet works, and I'll let her kind of tell you about that.
The FTEC program started a number of years ago. It's something that I look forward to. I know in 2003 when I graduated FLETC, I was one of the last classes that did not participate in it. And I feel like I got robbed. And I mean that in a nice way. The FTEC program is offering officers the opportunity to learn skills and gain resources and knowledge in the field that it took me 5, 6, 7, 8 years to learn. Normally, an officer would have to transfer from park to park to learn the different skill sets for officer safety, and they're getting it in this FTEC program. We're trying to get them the best tactics and habits for them to have now, so when they really need it and they're in the field, they're going to perform the way that they have been performing with repetition. Every day, every moment is different. I've never had 2 days the same. Adding a field training program in your park is going to improve your park operations. It's an investment in the future, but it's also an investment in the current staffing that you have. Being an FTO has allowed me to work on my skill set, keep improving not only officer safety and survival skills, but also my communication skills, identifying the needs of the individual, the trainee. You are investing in this next Ranger. You want them to succeed. You do everything you can to try and assist them to do the right thing and to learn. We're professionalizing not only so that we wear the uniform and pride, we do a good job not only for the citizens, but for ourselves and for our other officers.
Pretty cool, huh? Now don't let that video fool you. Field training is probably one of the most stressful 11 weeks of a Ranger's career, because if you think about it, you have gotten hired, you have gone through FLETC, you have all of that behind you, but in order for you to make it into the dream of becoming a park ranger, you have to go through one last step, field training. Field training, as I mentioned, is 11 weeks. You are, let's try that again. Technology is not my friend. Bear with me. It's 11 weeks. You're constantly being graded. You're constantly being tested on the skills that you have been taught. But no matter what happens, you are still just stressed out the entire time. I don't know if it makes any sense, but you make the best of that situation. Field training for me took place down in South Florida. The South Florida Parks complex consisted of Big Cypress National Preserve, Everglades National Park, and Biscayne. My field training is broken down into 4 phases. Phase 1 for me was in Big Cypress. Phase 2 was in Everglades Gulf Coast. And phase 3 was in Biscayne. And then in phase 4, I returned back over to my field trainer for phase 1 in Big Cypress. Big Cypress was a lot of hunting contacts, backcountry contacts, land fishing contacts, speeding, some DUI stuff. Everglades National Park and Biscayne was all water-based contacts, so vessel contacts. Yes, sir?
So you're saying you were doing land management at, like those of us that own ground, you were leasing and
No, what I mean,
negotiating leases?
what I mean by that is I'm standing on the ground doing law enforcement contacts. And at Everglades and at Biscayne, I'm on a boat for that entire
You
phase.
said hunting.
Yes,
What
yeah.
does that- What does that mean? Just
That,
hunting hunting?
yes, sir.
enforcement?
Yep. So Big Cypress National Preserve is one of several parks that actually allow for hunting to go on. It's not every park that has the ability to allow that, but recreation areas and preserves are mandated to allow for those types of activities through Congress. I mean, it kind of falls within the state program out there. Any types of rules and regulations that would fall out there would fall under state programs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you said contacts, these were law enforcement incidents?
Correct. Yeah. I was fairly familiar with the stuff that we were doing in Big Cypress because that was the type of stuff that we were doing in Nebraska. But for a kid who grew up in a landlocked state like Oklahoma, Everglades National Park in Biscayne, it was a completely foreign concept for me. I loved every minute of it, but I had no idea what I was doing. And this is, again, field training, your last hurdle before you become a full-fledged ranger. I had great field trainers, though, and they got me squared away on how to do vessel contacts. And it eventually got to a point where I became a vessel operator for the National Park Service. And I'm now still currently doing vessel contacts, and I'm the second in charge of the vessel program there at Chickasaw.
So you're going, maybe I can clear that for you. So you're going from game warden-like duties at Big Cypress to Miami Vice.
Sort of, yeah, yeah. That's a good way to look at it.
Adam, students these days know what.
Yeah, they can look it up.
I get every single day I get graded on various law enforcement tasks, some of which I did pretty well in, some of which I had to do, I never had to do remediation training on it, but as the field training program works, in phase one you're supposed to do a lot of shadowing type tasks. In phase two, you get a little bit more responsibility. Phase three, you're about doing 75% of it. And then in phase four, you're acting as a solo ranger out there. Phase one, I had a couple different less than acceptable, but the program itself wants you to start with your mistakes and show improvement along the way. And I'm proud to say that I was definitely able to show improvement along the way. There was definitely things that I was never exposed to from Oklahoma and from Nebraska out there in South Florida. So it didn't make it that big of a difference to me to get mistakes. I just knew that I had to learn from them. After those 11 weeks, I'm proud to say that I finally could call myself a Type 1 commissioned law enforcement ranger. But I still had to go back to Homestead, where I was the only ranger, where I was reporting to a superintendent who had never had any law enforcement experience. And I had just spent 11 weeks down in Florida, where I knew other like-minded rangers, and I saw how the grass was a little bit greener on the other side.
A little swampier.
A little swampier. Don't get me wrong. I loved being a ranger in Nebraska. It was great. But when you have an opportunity like what I had in Florida, it's pretty disheartening to go back to a place like Homestead National Monument, where you're just not doing that same stuff anymore. When I got back to Homestead, I struggled with that. I still worked hard, but I figured out that there was more opportunities. And so I may or may not have been applying for a position at Big Cypress in my last phase while I was planning to go back to Homestead for a little bit. And that didn't make my superintendent real happy because he had just invested a lot of money and time into me to go through FLETC, to go through field training. But sometimes you just got to look out for yourself a little bit. So I applied, and my dream finally became a reality. I went down to Big Cypress National Preserve. This area of Florida is swampland. It's prairie. It is types of patrolling out there that you would do would be airboat patrol, swamp buggy patrol. We had lots of hunting contacts. We had lots of backcountry off-road vehicle use cases out there.
Are you responsible for python hunters too then?
Yes, sir. Although at that time, you couldn't python hunt in the park out there. Yeah, when I was out there, that stuff was becoming newly established. That you just had a kind of, for lack of a better term, rogue entities coming out there. They were sanctioned by the state, maybe, and they were kind of just going out there. And as long as it wasn't in the park, we didn't care what they were doing with them. But we did have to contact lots of python hunters that wanted to come into the park and look for stuff. So we have a law in the national park where you're not supposed to use artificial light to hunt. You're especially not supposed to use artificial light at night to go hunting. So part of my job was to patrol certain areas of the park and look for hunters using artificial light out there. A lot of times it was people that were on the up and up, but occasionally you get people that would have drugs with them, they would have illegal guns with them, all sorts of different little nuances out there.
Applies to invasive species.
Exactly, yeah. The python would be definitely considered an invasive species out there in South Florida. To this day, we still have a python issue out there, but it has been established now that you can have sanctioned hunters out there in the park. The biologist team out there now has the ability to capture those pythons and actually inject a tracker in there, send it back out into the swamp, and figure out where they call it the Judas snake, because the Judas snake is the one that betrays the rest of the snakes out there. And you can go out there and find those snakes, and you can go out there and capture the whole group instead of just one at a time. So, yes, the short answer is yes, there was definitely python activity. Okay, 5 minutes, okay. I got a lot to get through then. The other thing that I wanted to kind of mention was that we had this concept called berry picking. We had illegals coming out there in the park, and they would come in and they would devastate the entire prairie out there. So we would have to set up cameras out there when we saw people coming in. And we're not talking just like 1 or 2 berries or anything. We're talking about actual truckloads of resource damage out there. Unfortunately, we were never able to make any cases out there, but we were definitely able to get the park cleaned up from that activity while we were out there. Other types of endangered species that we worked with were the ghost orchid. This is a very rare plant out there at Big Cypress. We also dealt with the Florida black bear and also the Florida panther. I did airboat patrol out there. I was able to do some celebrity, I was actually asked to go back out to Homestead National Monument of America and work with Bill Nye the Science Guy. That was pretty cool. And we would do manatee patrol out there, where we'd have to go out and rescue the manatees out there. And then, of course, a very atypical day for me. You had the python there, you had a plane crash there, and then an alligator had actually gotten its head stuck into a fence out there. That was like at 6:30 at night. I got off work at 7, and as luck would have it, I got that alligator out. I had to use, chain cutters to actually get it out. So they snapped it down. The alligator got out and grabbed a hold of the chain cutter. It was chock full of adrenaline at that point. And it just so happened that at that same moment, an employee drove through the area that I had kind of a crush on. And so being chock full of adrenaline, I asked her out, and she said yes. And she eventually went ahead and married me. And that was unbeknownst to her. I can't thank her enough to put up with me to this day. We had a real proud moment was we had a kayaker out there who got stuck out there for 2 days all by himself, and it was me, it was a couple of other rangers, Collier County Sheriff's Department. We were actually, his cell phone got washed up on shore, and we were actually able to locate him through information on that cell phone. That's me rendering aid to him. And of course, I would be remiss not to mention that in 2019, I had the distinct pleasure of giving back to Southwestern staff by hosting Chad, Randy, Ryan, and Stephen Cornell. Came back out to Florida. They got themselves a snake, and it was a really, really good time. I think he still has it, maybe not. You said it's in your barn, right? Yeah.
Still feeding it.
Yeah.
That's a tough snake.
Like chicken.
That's right. Yeah. My time at Big Cypress was good. Eventually things changed. Management was one of those things that changed out there, so we didn't get the support that we had. Plus, all my ranger friends had already moved on. And so we went to Tennessee, where one of my field trainers that was out, well, actually, he wasn't mine, but one of the rangers out there while I was out there doing field training was the chief ranger out there. I was able to get up there. He hired me. I got to do lots of neat activities like rappelling on a daily basis out there. I got to be don't worry, I'm not in a Speedo, I promise. I got to be a lifeguard out there. And it was a really, really good time out at Big South Fork. It was where eventually that little guy over there came to be, and I was real proud to be a ranger out there at Big South Fork. Again, some things changed. Management was changed for me, so that got me back down to Chickasaw National Recreation Area, where I am today. It's where I currently field trainer for the National Park Service. So I get to give those stressful 11 weeks back to students, to park rangers. I get to do bike patrol, I get to do training, I get to do traffic stuff out there. As I mentioned, the future for me, I'm going to be participating in what's called the peer support program out there, where I'm actually going to be utilized for other rangers in the National Park Service. If they have stress incidents that they need to deal with, I'll be one of those people that actually gets to help out and help them out. I also want to just mention real quick that I appreciate, again, all of you guys being here. I couldn't have been as successful as it was without any of you all. And if there's anything I can ever do for you guys, just let me know. Here's my contact information if people want to take a picture of it or anything. And I just want to say that, lastly, if I can say anything, I'm going to be that same dad that my dad was to me for that little guy over there. So thank you guys for having me, and appreciate it.